Welcome to Nation's Voice Tower, your most preferred YouTube channel. My name is Angelo Himalayas, your anchor. On issues relating to the just concluded presidential elections, many of the officials of INEC have come on board. Some have refused to avail themselves for interview. But one man who has made himself so available right from the coalition time till date, and as the presidential election tribunal case still goes on, is Mike Igini. Mike Igini is the former Akwa Ibom resident electoral commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And he is also known as Mr. Beavers. If you recall, Mike Igini was frequent on national TV prior to the just concluded general elections when he came up several times to convince Nigerians and to assure Nigerians of how credible and very crystal clear and how less burdensome the 2023 election is going to be. Of course, Mike Igini didn't stop coming on national TV on air to assure Nigerians of a free, fair, and credible elections as promised by the commission. Okay.
The Beavers, on account of the fact that we are going to have another election on the 18th of March, Charles, is the reason why, on account of the cacophony of voices, on account of the feeling of Nigerians, I have over 2,500 text messages, and I've got over 1,000 calls about going forward. I have this to say here, that the ill of democracy can only be cured by more democracy. With respect to the Beavers, I have this to say, that the Beavers, as I said, and I will repeat and reiterate here, that the Beavers function, the Beaver delivered, the Beaver won, because, and I want your station to put out a table to show that from Abia State down to Zavara, I'm currently carrying out a review of so many things that have happened. And I'm going to use my state, Delta State, where I come from. This is not the table, the first table about yes. Now, the table you are seeing here, if you can highlight it for Nigerian people to see, I told Nigerian people that with the Beavers, is going to bring about, we will put an end to the invidious figure that were posted in several parts of the country, where in communities, like I told you people, before the election, over and again, that in the difficult terrain area, any part of Nigeria, either in the upland or in the riverine area, where people used to post invidious figures, that Beavers was going to put an end to it.
And right now, on this interview, he has come up this morning to make sure that he has that he brings or breaks down all issues pertaining to the just concluded general elections. Mike Igini had a lot to say on the just concluded elections and the ongoing presidential election tribunal. First of all, Mike Igini spoke of the credibility of the just concluded general elections. He also spoke of hitches within the elections, that is, talking about the malfunction of the Beavers and so on and so forth. He spoke of rule of governance, especially as it relates to democratic governance, and then he also reiterated his own stand and view on expanding the empire of the judiciary in political matters. Mike Igini didn't stop there. He spoke about the illusion at the court that it could stand out where, of course, the judiciary always stands out to be an elections decider at every tribunal. That is an illusion by Nigerians, according to Mike Igini, and he feels it shouldn't go on that way. He spoke of the freedom at which people urge electoral opponents to always go to court, as they feel the court and the judiciary could be swayed both ways or to their own favor if the favor is in your own pockets, according to Mike Igini. He also didn't stop there. He spoke of non-determination of election results that the court of law, instead of the polling unit, should have done. Okay, as earlier promised by the commission. Okay, he actually kind of distance himself from issues that pertain to malfunctioning of beavers, electronic hitches, and network issues as alleged by INEC in the just concluded general elections. Finally, Mike Igini spoke of the election brutality and reasons why he thought it was supposed to be a kind of smooth elections, but he spoke of reasons why the beavers, which was supposed to smoothen all processes of the election, turned out to be the reasons why Nigerians couldn't accept the just concluded presidential election results. Let us watch Mike Igini there on the Rise News while he gave us a kind of broader explanation to issues as regards the just concluded elections and the ongoing presidential election tribunal. Watch him.
There's a period we call pre-election period where we have to educate fellow citizens on sound knowledge of democracy and democratic process. There is also the second phase, which is the election period itself, where the election will have to be conducted such that all that we have said have to put to tests. After that stage, the final stage is the stage where we are right now. And that is, given what we have in our country, without talking about the judiciary having to step in to look at how the issues that have been brought before them. So in this regard, where we are now is a period for the courts to look into the outcome of the elections. So where we are right now, Dr. Abati, as you know very well, in the best of our tradition as a lawyer, is where all who participated in the election, analysts, citizens, stakeholders, one institution to which all must bow is the judiciary. This is where we are at the moment. Therefore, issues that have to do with conformity to or deviation from established norms, rules, and procedure are already now before the court. And the court, I believe, judges are immediately qualified to look into those matters. But today, my engagement as part of your background is the fact that both members of the bench and the bar, those who have either retired or still serving, and those of us in the system. And as all of you have always known, before I went into INEC, or the period I was in INEC, and even after, my clarion call had only been my constituency. Those who have been following me would have read my interviews years ago talking about my constituency, that in any democracy, the last line of defense of democracy and the rule of law remains the judiciary. Today, in our country, you could see politicians bragging all over the place, something that is unheard of in England. So I said there are three broad phases of the conduct of election. As a matter of fact, the 2023 election process is not yet ended. So we are now at the level of the judiciary. And thank God that you have also reminded viewers, and all of you are all my living witnesses, that all the issues that I needed to speak about to put ahead, like some of the issues we talk about, 25% and all of that, those were issues I spoke about, not only in the 2023 election. In 2019, I presented even a table to show the direction, the things that are expected. Now, in terms of assessment, you also recall that the Arise Television, channels, AIT, TVC Continental, these are televisions that provided a platform for me to speak, to engage free without paying a dime. And after the election, you recall that 2 weeks after the presidential election, I also spoke and I expressed my concern about the fact that my votary had only been the process. That if the process is seen acceptable, at least by majority of people, the outcome will go without fuels. And that the whole design of the innovation that we have been working on for years particularly those provisions that were resisted for 20 years, that have now changed under the 2022 Electoral Act, were all intended to ensure that at the end of the election, that the vote of the Nigerian people should be determined finally and conclusively at the polling unit, not in the court of law. Not in the court of law. My reference to the UK was how judiciary discouraged politicians from coming to the court by asking people to go to the polling unit, go to the police station. Let that be determined finally and conclusively. Today, Dr. Abati, despite all of that, we have now found ourselves in the tribunal across the country, to the extent that even the innovations that we have developed that have been used to conduct over 105 elections, many of you were not even challenged and all that, but because of issue of deviation from conformity to the election, particularly what we saw in the second phase of election, where it was a case of a free-for-all. Do whatever you like. You can go to court. Now, if you look at what's happening now, as we speak, Dr. Abati, when I talk about the implication why we must move away, why election must end finally at the polling unit, is the fact that as we speak, Dr. Abati, because of this now, look at Section 285. Section 285 was actually an amendment that came in on the 6th of January 2011 to streamline the time within which matters will be determined in court, where you said the first leg is 180 days, Court of Appeal is 60 days, Supreme Court 60 days. You are the only country in the world that is having this kind of experience, that you spend half a year allocated for the first stage of tribunal. And that particularly look at that of governors. For someone to be a governor in Nigeria, you go through 4 stages. INEC, after INEC, you go to that of the tribunal. From tribunal, you go to the appeal. From appeal, you go to Supreme Court. This is where we are. Now, if you look at the timeline with the innovations in INEC, unlike before, where, for instance, to make a register of voters, you have to make photocopies upon photocopies. With the development of the back end or total number accreditation, to get a register of voters now is a matter of seconds. Why do we still need this long period? Just one example, that we're using that, we don't need that anymore. It means that, for example, look at what happened in Kenya. Within 2 weeks, that is done. In Mexico, within 14 days. In Ghana, same thing. We don't even need that 285 days. But these are debates. These are arguments that we have made long before this election. But it's a case of the far corner. No longer listen to the far corner. That's the problem we have. Because we don't need that. Because we can return back to where we were in 1979, in 1983, where people, which of course that's not the law at the moment. The law at the moment is that all those who have House of Assembly, House of Rep, governorship, presidential, whoever have been returned, we have to be sworn in. Then you have to go to court, where you are going to spend 6.5. Now, the implication of this are as follows. I'm not quickly saying this, which is the reason why I'm worried, and I've been saying this over the years, as we speak today, Dr. Abati, because of the sui generis nature of election petition. All the judges that have now been selected to be in the tribunal, all their civil and criminal docket are now on hold. Cases that have been on for over 20 years, 15 years, as we speak now, they are going to be on hold in abeyance for the next 6 months because the judges are on a video tribunal. Furthermore, cases of those who are require what they call fundamental enforcement of human rights, right now, you cannot have that done because most of the judges are now in the tribunal sitting. Also, prisoners, those who have been in the correctional center, that have been having bail applications that have been pending, they are now on hold. All of that cannot be attended to as we speak right now because everybody in tribunal. Commercial business matters, commercial matters transactions in the country today, they are on hold. Nothing can go on. Investment decision is also on hold until all these matters are resolved. This is not the way we should go. We have thought that with the direction of the innovations, of the technology in the system, was to ensure that immediately after election, let the business of governance kickstart immediately. Just last week, Abati, last week, somebody called me from the US that a group of consortium who are coming, they've been planning to come to Nigeria since last year. They put the entire business plan that will involve millions of dollars investment in a state in Nigeria. But they said it will be after the election. After the election, now the Nigerian counterpart was asking his foreigner to now come. Oh, they said, look, we cannot come because we understand that your election is not yet over. We cannot bring the huge financial capital to Nigeria on account of that. And now the Nigerian counterpart was telling them that, look, it was a matter of a week to be over and so on and so forth. He didn't know that his counterpart had done his own due diligence. And they told him that, look, it will take 6 months. It was on the basis of that that he called me and he put me on speaker. I didn't know, thinking that I would say something different from what he'd been told. And I confirmed to him that for governorship, it will take 6 months. At the Court of Appeal, it will take 60 days. Supreme Court, 60 days. That was what I put that on hold. So
all right,
what is going on is that to the core, when I refer to the UK, is that everything was done by Judge. Maybe you just go back to the interview I had with Charles Niagolo. I said everything I needed to say. I have made it clear to everybody that this is not the time for people like us to be talking about the profound benefit of the beavers. When we have situations where people were killed, people were prevented from voting, there was ethnic profiling. My family had been in Lagos since the 50s, in Surulere. My cousin, who was born in Lagos here, was to be beaten up in Surulere. He married to an Abekuta lady. My sister married to a Yoruba person in this Lagos. These things happened. These were not the things I campaigned about. There was a clarion call. The clarion call was very clear. People should come out because we have used it for 105 elections. Apart from Oshu, for instance, all other elections, they were not challenged in court. What was challenged was about, oh, you are not qualified, you didn't go to this school, all those governorship elections. None was actually challenged on terms of process and procedure. But we all witnessed what happened. And a first interview I ever got was to this, Arise Television. Now you have seen that parties have exchanged briefs in the tribunal. And that's why I said, look, there is not much of thing. I granted interview, both in written form and to everybody, print, electronic. And I've made it very clear that I'm still in shock about the behavior, what we saw, that the conduct of political class have not complemented the reform that we have made these years. And it's a tragedy that politicians conducted themselves in the most shameful manner. On the election day, one of our own, a Queen's Counsel, a professor who had very pressing matters outside Nigeria, but he placed Nigeria interests above every other thing. He flew down to the country, to Delta State, to go and vote. What he observed was a crime scene. He called me. That how could this be? We are talking one of the finest, the most celebrated Queen's Counsel we have. One that even the British legal community described as one who, whatever he does not know in law, is not worth knowing. That was what he experienced. So, Ayo, right now, I told you that in the best of our tradition, because I've also seen lately that people are going to specific right now as to what, people have exchanged brief already. I mean, you were asking me to be responding to the Electoral Management Body's response to petitioner's brief. I mean, why should I go into that? I can't go into that. I should not go into that. Let's wait for the court to decide that. But what is important...
Right, you've heard it all from Mike Igini. I can't say more. Mike Igini is not just a worker with INEC. Mike Igini is an activist, and he's also he has a broader understanding of Nigerian constitution and Nigerian law. So whatever he says in his capacity makes him an authority, and we can't question that. In case you are a subscriber or an incoming subscriber and you feel you should drop a comment contrary to what Mike Igini thinks, of the just concluded elections. You could drop a comment for us in the comment section, and otherwise you could like the video, make it go viral. Don't forget to watch till the end. From our table, we're saying goodbye. See you next time.